Primetime Deion Sanders is one of the most famous athletes of all time. His accomplishments are almost mythical. He made it to the World Series, won multiple Super Bowls, and was one of the first NFL players to play both offense and defense. Even though Sanders has a lot of success, he kept a secret that almost cost him his life. But he had to deal with other problems before that close call with death. Deion Sanders was born on August 9, 1967 in Fort Myers, Florida, to Connie and Mim Sanders. When he was 2 years old, his parents got a divorce, which was a big change in his life. After his father left, his mother and stepfather, Willie Knight, took care of him. Even with these problems at the start, Sanders showed a lot of potential. Sanders started playing sports seriously when he was just 8 years old, the unwavering help of his parents. This would set the tone for the rest of his career. He really showed off his skills in high school, where he was named to the all-state teams in football, baseball, and basketball. It was on the basketball court where he became famous. After scoring 30 points, his teammates call him Primetime, a name that would become famous. Sanders was so good at sports that he was named to the Florida High School Association All-Century Team in 1985 because of how good he looked. The Kansas City Royals picked him up in the 6th round of the MLB draft and gave the teenager $50,000. Sanders had other ideas though. He picked Florida State University, which set him on the path to even bigger things. Sanders faced his first big athletic choice point at FCU, so he wouldn't have to do too many things. He focused on football, baseball, and track, while unwillingly giving up basketball. His first year showed that he had made the right choice. He did great as a quarterback in football, patrolled the outfield in baseball, and helped his team win the conference title in track. In 1986, he continued to rise to fame, being named to the 3rd team of All-Americans in baseball, and the 1st team of All-South Independent players in football. Then came 1987, when his amazing versatility nearly became overwhelming. Sanders showed how athletic he was by competing in the track and baseball conference finals on the same day. After running to the track center for the 4x100 relay, he played baseball in the semifinals against Southern Mississippi. He then ran back to the baseball field for the championship game against Cincinnati. But what really made this achievement amazing was winning their conference titles. But it would become harder for him to balance all of his activities in the future. But for now, Sanders couldn't be hurt, especially on the football field. He was great at cornerback, punt returner, and kick returner as a junior, which showed how versatile he was. He helped Florida State to an amazing 11-1 record and was named to be the 1st team of All-Americans. However, his school performance suffered a lot because he was so good at sports. Sanders knew he wanted to be a professional player by the time he was a senior in high school in 1988. Because he was so into sports, he pretty much stopped going to class. His faith, which was already strong, grew into something much bigger. "I make trends, not follow them," he would say. "I don't follow styles, I make styles. I've never in my life looked at someone and thought, let me see what he got on. Not at all. When you see me, you feel bad about yourself." Before his last game against the Florida Gators, he had the most confidence. "My last game. That was the curtain call. That was it, the last hurrah," Sanders said. "What other way should you leave? You should take a limo yourself." In true form, he showed up in a tuxedo and top hat, a dramatic arrival that fit his personality. Sanders didn't say sorry when asked about his showy behavior. How do you think defensive backs get attention? They don't make anyone look humble. People look twice at his brazen personality because he skipped classes, dressed up to the nines for games, and talked trash. But in the 1989 Sugar Bowl, Sanders backed up his confidence with an interception that won the game. He won awards for being the best defensive back and punt returner in the country at the end of his college career, making him a 2-time 1st-team All-American. Sanders wouldn't commit to a single sport though, and this soon caused problems in his business career. The New York Yankees picked him in the MLB draft while he was still at Florida State. Later at the Combine, he shocked NFL scouts with a lightning-fast 4.27-second 40-yard dash. Sanders realized his dream of being a professional athlete in 2 sports after his success at the collegiate level. The Atlanta Falcons selected him 5th overall in the 1989 NFL Draft. At about the same time, he wed Caroline Chambers, who would go on to have 2 children with him. Everything was going swimmingly, until he unexpectedly had a twist occur. After signing a rookie contract with the NFL worth $4.4 million, Sanders stepped up his primetime persona. In the same week that he became the first professional athlete to score a touchdown and hit a home run, his first punt return became legendary. Additional notable performances the next year included a pick six, a punt return score, and 3 interceptions. Still, Sanders' attitude was a major reason why his baseball career never lived up to its potential. The 1990 Major League Baseball season was the climax of this. Sanders jogged to the dugout instead of running to first base after hitting a pop-up to shortstop on May 22nd. After this, Carlton Fisk, who would go on to become a Hall of Famer catcher, became angry and approached him. "I don't know if anybody that I've ever played against has disrespected the game like he appears to be doing," said Fisk. "I didn't know anything about the history of the game and the respect level of the game." Sanders remarked in his trademark rebellious manner, "I simply knew that if you dared to challenge me, I would gladly accept. I'll lay hands on you first if you threaten to do what you seem like you were about to do to me." That was a lack of knowledge. A famous showdown with Bo Jackson, another multi-sport superstar, served as his wake-up call. Bo Jackson overshadowed Sanders' performance despite Sanders' impressive inside-the-park home hit. Sanders' self-assurance was unshaken though, and he still wanted $1 million in the offseason. The owner of the Yankees had had enough of Sanders' theatrics and indecision on the field. The owner put Sanders on waivers after 2 seasons of moderate batting, .717 average, on the grounds that his baseball performance was suffering due to his football career. Another important choice in his career trajectory was thrust upon Sanders as a result of this. In 1991, Sanders had to make a big decision. He could either focus on football only or keep playing both sports. He picked the second option and signed with the Atlanta Braves, which allowed him to play baseball and football in the same city. But there were some problems with this plan. His contract said he had to go back to the Falcons after the MLB season. This meant he had to go on standby and do nothing, as the Braves made it to the World Series but lost 1 game short of a title. Sanders kept putting his energy into football, and he helped the Falcons have their first winning season, 10-6 since he got there. With 6 interceptions and a defensive score, he had a great season and was chosen for the Pro Bowl for the first time. Sanders' out-of-this-world image hit new heights when MC Hammer made a song about him. The song became the team's anthem and helped them make an unexpected run to the playoffs. But their luck didn't last long. In the divisional round, the Falcons lost to the Redskins 24-7. Sanders kept getting calls from baseball teams. He said, "The only way I have a chance to be successful in baseball is to give it a shot for a full season." He was sure the Braves would win the World Series. He worked hard and had his best season yet, with a .304 batting average, 26 stolen bases, and 14 triples, the most in the National League. Sanders changed the terms of his deal so he could play for the Braves once again when they made the playoffs. There was only one problem. He hadn't told the Falcons. They gave him a $68,000 fine because they were angry that he chose to focus on baseball. But Sanders was about to do something that no one saw coming on October 11th that would make sports history. In Game 5 of the NLCS against the Pittsburgh Pirates, everything reached a boiling point when Sanders boarded a private plane from Pittsburgh to Miami at 12:18 a.m. He began an ambitious timetable. He didn't even make it to one practice that week before playing in the Miami Dolphins defense for the first time at 1:07 p.m. After getting intravenous medication, Sanders hopped on a chopper as the Falcons fell 21-17. Just before the opening pitch, at 8 minutes and 28 seconds, he arrived at Three Rivers Stadium. However, in an unexpected move, Braves manager Bobby Cox benched Sanders for the game against the Pirates. News outlets, including commentator Tim McCarver, went after Sanders for his indecision, saying that he should have committed to just one sport. In a fiery reaction to this criticism, Sanders confronted McCarver during the game. However, he managed to convert his displeasure into an outstanding performance in the World Series. Sanders hit over .500, scored 4 runs, and had 8 hits while playing with a fractured foot. If the Braves had come out on top, his performance could have been recognized as the World Series MVP, but they were unsuccessful, and so his football season with the Falcons. The Falcons failed to make the playoffs despite his first-team All-Pro status and his league-leading kickoff return yards. Skeptics of Sanders' dual-sport career began to speak out in earnest in 1993. He is famous for saying, "Football is my wife and baseball is my mistress." However, he started to feel alarms going off in his body. He was placed on the disabled list in August due to a respiratory ailment, which ended his baseball season before it ever started. Despite sitting out 5 games with an injury, he finished with 7 interceptions, which is good for first place in the NFL. Sanders had an even more impressive season the next year, playing in just 14 games. He had 6 interceptions and 3 defensive touchdowns, including a bittersweet revenge game against his previous team. He put an end to his detractors and was named the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year for his dominance. Sanders now faced a new obstacle with the San Francisco 49ers, who had an outstanding regular season record of 13-3 in 1994. Their last appearance in the Super Bowl was 1989, and they had lost the NFC Championship games in a row to their fierce rivals, the Dallas Cowboys. When it came down to it, the 1994 NFC Championship was more than simply a game. The 49ers' win over their rival, marked by Eric Davis's important interception, finally made it possible for Sanders to become NFL champion. While he was riding high on his fame, he even released his rap record. But changes came out of the blue during the summer. Despite Sanders' desire to stay with the 49ers, they made no move to retain him. Instead, he signed a $35 million 7-year deal with the Cowboys, making him the NFL's highest-paid defensive player. Sanders didn't play for the Cowboys until Week 9 because he had a knee surgery, and that season, he only had 2 interceptions. The Cowboys had bigger plans for their star defender, though. The team crushed their playoff opponents and made it to the Super Bowl for the 3rd time in 4 years, where Sanders helped them win another title. While his sports career took off, things went badly for him in baseball. Sanders chose to focus only on football in 1996, after being moved from the Braves to the Cincinnati Reds in 1994, and then to the San Francisco Giants the next year. He went one step further by becoming the first NFL player since Chuck Bednarik in 1962 to play both defense and wide receiver. Sanders had 475 receiving yards, 2 interceptions, and 3 fumble returns that season, which was enough to earn him his 4th first-time All-Pro selection in 5 years. Cowboys failed to make it to the Super Bowl for the 3rd year in a row, but Sanders couldn't resist the call of baseball and would soon be back playing America's favorite sport. Sanders' return to the Cincinnati Reds in 1997 was amazing. He stole 56 bases in 115 games, which was the 5th most in the league. In the same year, he continued his NFL career with the Dallas Cowboys, where he was named his 6th Pro Bowl and 5th first-time All-Pro team. Sanders was successful at work, but he was also going through tough times in his personal life. Sanders was having problems inside. Even though his primetime image was at its best, his relationship with Carolyn Chambers was getting worse, which made him look for happiness in things like mansions, cars, and expensive shoes, as well as in relationships. None gave him the satisfaction he was looking for. Sanders' life changed when he woke up one morning in his Cincinnati home surrounded by friends, and asked himself what he was doing with his life. He was so sad that he drove his car off a 40-foot cliff and tried to kill himself. He sped up to 70 miles per hour before the crash, miraculously made it through the crash with almost no injuries. Sanders saw his escape as a sign from God, which led to a deep spiritual awakening that led him to become a Christian. Sanders' refocus on football after his faith gave him strength. He had good seasons in 1998 and 1999, but both teams lost in the first round of the playoffs. The Cowboys let him go on June 2, 2000, because of the pay cap. Daniel Snyder, the owner of the Washington Redskins, quickly signed Sanders to a $56 million 7-year deal. Sanders then shocked the sports world by quitting for a while. In 2001, when he was 33 years old, he tried to play one last MLB season with the Reds. He was let go, though, after hitting 173 in 29 games. Sanders came back to the NFL for one last game after being away for more than 2 years. Sanders had a great NFL career. He won 2 Super Bowls, was picked for 8 Pro Bowls, was named to 6 first-team All-Pro teams, and won the NFL Defensive Player of the Year award in 1994. He was great at both baseball and football, but his NFL career is what he's most famous for. Sanders got a new job in 2020 as head coach at Jackson State University. During 3 years, he's led his team to an amazing 27-6 record. In 2023, he became the head coach at Colorado, where he hoped to bring back to prominence one of college football's historic teams. For many, bringing Colorado's program back to life seemed impossible, but Sanders did it. and he's currently the favorite to replace Mike McCarthy, whose contract with the Cowboys just expired. As his story goes on, Prime continues to show that people who are brave enough to try the impossible can achieve the unimaginable. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.